Welcome to Algebra 1. The learning goal for this episode is to learn how to solve a system of linear inequalities. Let's look at some examples. We want to solve this system of inequalities. To solve a system of inequalities, I graph each inequality on the same coordinate plane. In this case, I graph the first inequality, y is greater than x plus 4, in black. Note that it's a dotted line since it's just greater than but not equal to, and then I shaded above the line since it was greater than. I graphed the second inequality, y is less than or equal to 3x plus 8, in red. This one gets a solid line since there's an equal sign, and I shaded below the line. My solution for the system, though, is the area where the two shadings overlap, indicated by the green shading. Any point in this region is a solution to the system of inequalities. Note that the green area continues in an upward direction between the two boundary lines. It's always good to spot check a point or two in your solution region to make sure you didn't make any mistakes. In this case, the point 0, 5 is a nice point in my shaded region to try. I need to substitute 0 in for x and 5 in for y in both inequalities and make sure the point works in both of them. It does, so that gives me some confidence that my solution is correct. Let's try another example. This time, notice I have 3 inequalities, but the process is the same. I graph all 3 inequalities on the same coordinate plane. I graphed my first inequality in black, y is less than or equal to 2x plus 1. I used a solid line and shaded below the line. The second inequality, y is greater than or equal to negative 2, I graphed in red with a solid line and shading above. The third inequality, x is greater than 3, I graphed in yellow. Note the dotted line and then shading to the right. I then shade the region where all 3 of the inequalities overlap. I shaded it in green. When you're doing this, you can shade it darker if you're using a pencil, or if you have colored pencils, you can use one of those. Again, any point in the green region is a solution to our system. Again, we should pick a point in that region and spot check. I picked 0, 0 and substituted into all 3 inequalities to make sure it works. It does, so I'm fairly confident that I have the right region. Now for our guided practice section. We're going to work through some problems together. You do not need to write down these problems, just step through them with me. At each step I'm going to prompt you with the question you should be asking yourself. Then I'll pause for about 5 seconds for you to think about it and answer it for yourself. Then I'll show you. So for this problem, our first question is, what are we trying to do here? What we're trying to do is solve this system of inequalities. How do we do that? We graph each inequality on the same coordinate plane. Now what? Now we see where the shaded regions overlap and either shade that darker if we're using a single color, or a different color if we're using colored pencils or markers to indicate our solution region. What's next? Now we should pick a point in our shaded region and test it in both of our original inequalities to make sure it works. I chose the point 5, 2, but you could have chosen any point in your shaded region. 5, 2 works, so I'm reasonably confident my shaded region is correct. Let's try another one. Again, we're solving a system of inequalities. What do we do first? This time we have 3 inequalities, but the process is the same. We graph all 3 of them on the same coordinate plane. What's next? Next, we shade the region where all 3 inequalities overlap to indicate our solution region. What's next? We pick a point in our shaded region and check it in all 3 inequalities. I picked 0, 0, but you could pick any point you'd like in that region. 0, 0 works, so I'm fairly confident my solution region is correct. It's important to remember that any point in that region is a solution to the system. Now for the self-check section. In this section, you're going to physically pause the video as you work out the problem on paper in your notebook. Then you'll press play to check to see how you did. You'll have 5 seconds to pause the video after I stop speaking before I show you the solution. Please pause the video now and work out the problem, then press play to check. Here's the solution. Please compare this to your work. Pause the video here if you need more time to compare, then press play again to move to the next problem. Same thing on this problem. Pause the video, write down this problem, and work it out in your notebook, then press play to check. Please pause the video now. Here's the solution. Again, pause the video if you need more time to compare this to your work. In closing, let's review our learning goal. We wanted to learn how to solve a system of linear inequalities. We did that by graphing and shading each individual inequality, then seeing where the shaded regions overlapped. That area, which we shaded darker, or a different color, to indicate it was a solution, is the solution to the system of inequalities. We then picked a point in that region to spot check in each inequality just to make sure.